Hey friends, it's Gina. Welcome to the Rebookery channel. It has been forever since I have done a video. Life kind of got in the way here this last month. I had two kids that graduated and the end of school, because we had a whole week of snow days. The end of school was actually a week later and those kids were so done. So it was like herding cats and I don't know, gardening and all kinds of stuff. And so I have just neglected my channel and my shop and everything else. But school is over and I can finally get caught up on a bunch of stuff and do some journaling and do some journal making and share some exciting stuff with you guys. So do you have a go bag? And what I mean by that is a bag that you just keep all your journaling supplies in. Like, I have several of these. And it's just a bag that if I know I'm gonna be somewhere, like used to be soccer practice and stuff, I would just grab the bag and it would have everything in it and I could do journaling, or at least that was my intent. Some of the times, most of the times it actually just sat because I always got busy with other stuff and never did journal. But sometimes I would pull it out and I would journal. So this is my go bag that I had been using this last month. And so let me just show you what's in here. So this is a journal. It's not my little journal, but this is a journal that I've had for a couple of years now, and I just call it my pretty journal because it is a true altered book, and it's just a journal that I love working in. I don't work in it very often. This is my bag of pins and tape and glue, you know, just the bag that has all the good stuff in it. And so if it's not in here, I don't use it. That's one good thing about a go bag, is that if it's not there, then I don't use it, and sometimes that messes up with my creativity. I try to use so many different things and I just get overwhelmed. And that's the cool thing about a bag, is because everything is there and I don't have to get overwhelmed. And then I just grabbed a little pile of fabric and I threw that in because I always like to have little bits of fabric whenever I am journaling. And I threw some watercolors in, but I don't know, that never really works. Scissors, of course. And then this was just a thing that I used to use when I would do the traveler's notebook style of journal. And it was just an insert I made, but it housed some stickers and some papers and stuff like that. And so what I found was that in all of my go bags, I have the exact same supplies, and they seem to be my favorite journaling supplies. Like, these are the ones I use every single time. If I were to sit down and journal, I would always pull out these things, like this right here. I know this looks just like a tattered piece of paper to someone, but to me, this is gold. This is, I can do so much in a journal spread with just this paper and just this clip of a book page with this little text right here. I like, this is really all I need, in a glue stick. So it got me thinking, and then there's my bag, it's empty. It got me thinking, what are my favorite things? Like, when I journal, what are my favorite things? And I started to pull together a bunch of my favorite things. And so I started to look at some of my old journals. This is an old traveler's notebook insert, and 2017. So just things that I noticed, and I'm going to go through here and I'm going to just show you things that I noticed that I use over and over again. So I use wallpaper over and over again. I like to use weird stickers. Here's wallpaper again. Book pages, just weird random book pages, and then just glue them as the background. Children's book pages. This is actually a golden book page, and this was, I think, Bambi. But the thing about children's book pages that I love so much is that not only do I use the images, I also use the words. I love finding a text from a book and then trying to make those words fit into my journaling. Wrapping paper, just bits of wrapping paper. this is from one of my favorite books. I actually have 3 copies of this book. Let me see, I have it right here. It is the North American Wildlife Reader's Digest book. I love this book. I think I've showed it to you guys before. The images and the paper and I don't know, there's just something about it. If you give me one of these pieces of paper, it doesn't matter what it's about, I will use every single bit of it, and I can turn it into multiple journal pages. So you can see that this one is well loved. I've used it a lot, but I actually, let me show you this. The other day I did this because the end of school this year was very stressful, and so I needed, when I came home, I just needed to sit on the deck with my animals and just do some random like doodling. And so this was one of them. And again, I just used my go bag. I used what was in my go bag. So I had a bit of fabric. I had just some notebook paper that had notes written on it, so I just cut those up into flowers. And then this was a page from, and I don't even think it was a whole page, I think it was just like a little scrap from that North American Wildlife book, and I cut it up and used all of the parts, every single bit I was able to use. And I love cutting up, and I'll zoom in on this a little bit, I love cutting up just the text and putting it as just a single line, because it may not mean anything to anybody, but I can always extract meaning from it. And I don't know, it's just really cool. I love doing that in my journaling, taking random text and then connecting it to whatever it is I'm journaling about. And this was just, I don't even think I had any meaning behind this journal, this journal spread. It was just me doodling around. This is some wallpaper. So yeah, and bits from old magazines, tea bag. So yeah, so the things that I notice I use over and over again, here's some tissue paper. There's another, here's another image from that book. And then here's some more wrapping paper. Security envelopes. I love security envelopes. My husband knows that whenever he gets some in the mail, he always just throws them my way. A children's book page was the background for this. Even though you can't tell it's there anymore, I know it's there, and it just makes a nice layer. Another children's book page. So I got to thinking about all of these things that I use, my go-to items that I use over and over again, and I started to pull them together, and I made a kit, a journal kit. And in this journal kit, I have a collection of my favorite things. And I'm going to put this in my Etsy shop. So in the kit, it'll come in a box like this. In the kit, you're going to get 3 separate packages. Let me show you. The first package will be a paper package, and so I'm using recycled or upcycled page protectors, so I wanted everything to fit into a page protector. So this is an 8.5 by 11, and I just gathered my favorite paper bits that I like to journal with. So, and then just some random things. So of course, some of my favorites are buttons, but rather than give you loose buttons, I thought I would give you button cards, because these are really fun to use as journaling. If you just tape up the sides, you can make pockets out of them. You could take the buttons off of them and sew them onto something and then use the cards for something else. Some of them have price tags on them. So there will be buttons. I love weird random stuff. And so these film slides, I just find that they are so fun to put in your journaling because they're just unexpected. And I've been putting a lot of these in the journals that I make. Now, you can use the actual slide that's there, or what I like to do is just like to pop out the slide And then, you know, I could use that for something if I wanted to, or I could just get rid of it. And then I also like to, if you're really careful, you can pop them apart. Now this one's a plastic one, but you can pop them apart, and then that gives you 2 of them. Now this one is a little bit harder to do, but I have popped these apart because this is like a cardboard. But if you're really careful, you can pop them apart, and then that gives you 2 of them. But they just make little frames, and they're just so, I don't know, they're just so fun and unexpected. So this is one of my favorite things. Book pages we'll talk about here in just a second. I love cards, like recipe cards and flash cards, and I have one more in here. Let me find it. There's just something about having cards, the strength, there it is. The strength of it. This makes great journaling. This makes great tags. And so in my go bag, I always like to have a few cards. So that will be in the kit. In my go bag, I like to have lots of paper scraps, not whole sheets of paper, not store-bought sheets of paper, but paper scraps of paper that no one wants anymore. So like thrifted or found, and my favorite is wrapping paper because it's so thin and it's easy to mold to your pages with just a glue stick. And so I've just pulled a collection of just random bits of wrapping paper. Some of it still has the old cellophane tape on it. And some of this is stuff I've thrifted. Some of it's from my own collection. Some of it is from some of you beautiful people that have sent me some of your scraps. So you get a whole pile of this, and I would never let a single piece of this go to waste. Like, just there's something about the wrapping paper. I love using it until there's nothing left. So a whole pile of that. A security envelope. Book pages again. This is the book page from that North American wildlife book. So everybody will get one of these. I'm going to talk about the book pages here in just a second. Okay, so wallpaper. So I acquired a new, well, it's not new, a 1920, is it 1928? 1926? I don't know, it's 1920s wallpaper book. And this is actually what drove how many kits I could make, because I wanted to make sure every kit got some of this beautiful wallpaper. So each kit will get 3 pieces, and the pieces are, there's the pattern on one side, but then when you flip it over, there is the actual like advertisement that tells about the paper, so you could use either side. And it's not so fragile that it falls apart. If that was the case, I wouldn't put it in the kit. It still has some strength to it, but it is delicate because it's, you know, 80 some years old. So anyway, 3 pieces of this beautiful, beautiful 1920s wallpaper. Let's see. Okay. So this is just some images I have. This is not original. This is a book of just like, I think you can get them, like they come with a CD and you can print off the images and stuff, and they're not copyrighted, and as long as you buy the CD and everything. But I never printed them off the CD, but I found the actual manual or book that goes along with the CD, and so I tore that apart. So I like this just because it becomes background, great background, you know, interest, or you could actually cut the images out. But I threw that in because you always like to just have, in my go bag, I always like to just have some random images to take up some of that background white space. Okay, so then the book pages. All right, so I tried to pull from my favorite books. What would be book pages that I would want in my go bag? All right, so by far my absolute favorite books are children's books. I love cookbooks, I love sewing books, but children's books are where this all started with me. And for me, golden books, because I am a golden book collector, and I have hundreds maybe thousands. I actually downsized, so I got rid of some of them, but I have lots of golden books. So to me, they're a go-to staple. If I'm journaling, I like to take the ones that have fallen apart or the ones that are stained, and I love to reuse those. So in this kit, I have some golden book pages, and I pulled from several different books. So let me see what I have here. There we go. Pulled from several different books. So you get 3 different, and I tried to give you 3 different eras. So you get an old, a vintage, and then maybe a newer, but still like in the 1980s or something. So golden book pages. Then I also did my other favorite kind of golden books are the little golden books, or the first little golden books, or the telltale books. So I pulled some pages from those, and I think they came from the Let's Play Peekaboo and the Mother Goose. So you'll get a page from that, which again, images and the text, both you could use. This is another one like the wrapping paper. I like to use every single square inch of the book pages. And then, I don't know if you've ever seen these before, but these are called little golden books. And so I have a collection of these. And then I have ones that were torn up and, you know, kids had written in and stuff that I don't collect. And I just use in journaling. So I tore some of those apart, and I love them for just their size, the text, again, the image. So you get one of those. Then I pulled from another one of my favorites, the Childcraft books. So I've used the Childcraft books before. I have a few of them. This is my oldest one. This is the one that I started with, and I think it was, I can't remember, but I want to say this one was 1950s. But anyway, it was already falling apart, so I've just been using this for years, just pulling the pages and the images out, and I used the covers and turned it into another journal. So I went to this one because this is my favorite of all my Childcraft books and all the different years that they were published. This is my favorite, and I pulled a page out for each of the kits. So there will be a Childcraft page in each of the kits. I love fairy tales and, you know, anything that has to remind me of my childhood, and I can always put those items into a journal spread. So I pulled out a fairy tale book. This was from the 60s, and it has fairy tales, it has poems, it has some weird ones. I don't think this was published in the United States because it has some that I wasn't aware of. It had some fairy tales that I wasn't really aware of, but the images are beautiful. And so each kit will get one of those pages, and it's a nice heavy paper. Then I just love vintage readers, vintage books that you would use like at school, and they have just a collection of different stories in them. So I pulled a page from one of my vintage readers, and I'm trying to look to see if there has a publication date on it. It doesn't look like it does. 1950s maybe. So I pulled a page from that, and again, the text and the images, I've used these. I mean, like, this is what I have left of that one because I just use them over and over again. And then I wanted to pull in some 70s and 80s stuff. So I just love Charlie Brown, because that was like me growing up. So Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and again, images and just the text. So you get a couple of pages from 2 different books. And then I also like dictionary pages, because sometimes when I make a spread and I don't really have anything to say, I just need words to put on there. And so I always go to dictionary pages, because sometimes I can just find a word, and the word will actually represent what I'm feeling or what I was thinking, and I can put the word in there and call it done, and I don't have to worry about journaling. So I put in a couple of dictionary pages, and this dictionary happens to be, this was my own personal dictionary when I was growing up. So this is 1970s, and it is really old, and the pages are yellowed, but I give you 2 pages from my Charlie Brown dictionary that I loved. I remembered I didn't have a lot of books growing up. I don't know why, but this was one that I had, and I would always look at it. So yeah, probably looked at the pictures. I wasn't much into reading. So anyway, you'll get 2 pictures from that, or 2 pages from that. So that's the paper side. So now let's talk fabric. I always like to have another dimension in my journal, and fabric just seems to be the way to go. And I don't want to go buy fabric at a big box store. I want vintage, thrifted, discarded fabric. So you will get a bag of fabric. There's over, I don't know, 30 pieces or something in here, and then you'll get some trims too. So there will be some trims. One of my all-time favorite fabrics is polyester. I love polyester because this is the 70s and 80s. So you get a piece of polyester fabric. My love of vintage sheets has made its way into this kit. So I gave you some scraps from some pillowcases and sheets that I have in my collection. And then this is a pile of quilting fabric that I got from an estate sale. It was the estate sale where I got the quilt that was made by Helen. So this is all of Helen's fabric. Well, it's not all of Helen's fabric, but this is some of Helen's fabric. So what I did was I threw all of her fabric into the washing machine. I think it took me 3 loads. And then once I pulled it out, I pressed it. I still have quite a bit that I still need to press, and I'm going to use it. So here's the cool thing about Helen's fabric. They're random bits. They're not going to be measurable, like with, you know, exact measurements. They're just random bits of offcuts that she had when she was sewing. And I can tell, so she made quilts because a lot of hers are in shapes like this. But I can also tell she made clothing because you can tell like when they've cut out a sleeve or something. And so I love this. I love this because most people don't know what to do with this, but we journalers, we love these odd cuts because it just adds so much interest to our journals. So I have a pile of Helen's fabric that I have washed, and oh yeah, it smells good, that I have washed and I have pressed. They're going to be odd bits, perfect for putting on a journal page. I like to put them behind photos. I like to put them in the gutter between the 2 pages to kind of secure your papers a little bit more. I like to put them on the edge. You can glue these. I just use a glue stick. You've seen me journal with these before, and I just use glue sticks. You can use wet glue, or you can staple them. You could even sew them on if you wanted to. So you get a pile of Helen's fabric that has been washed and pressed. And then the last piece of fabric you're going to get is really, it gets kind of interesting. So on the back of it, it's got this plastic type of texture. This is a set of drapes from Montgomery Ward's, my store. And I cut the drapes down because I made journal covers out of them. Hang on, I'll show you the journal covers. Okay, so this is something I'm going to work on this summer, but I took the drapes and I have backed them to a piece of cardstock, and it's been scored so that you'll have a cool little spine here, and it'll wrap around, kind of like my those fabric journals that I made. And so this was some of the stuff that was left over. This was just kind of a cool little piece of fabric. Like I said, 1970s, 1980s Montgomery Ward's, you can't go wrong. So I threw some of that in there, and it's either a whole piece or I had 2 smaller pieces. So that will be in your fabric bag. And then the last thing, okay, because I told you there was going to be 3 things in the box. The last thing you're going to get in your box, you're going to get a book. Because in my go bag, when I was journaling with this bag here this last month, everything was wonderful. Everything was perfect. I had plenty of supplies, but I just wished I had a book. If I have a book, my supplies are unlimited because I always have something. I have inspiration. I have words. I have sentences. I have illustrations. I have paper for the background. And so what I have done is I have gone through my collection of books, and I have too many and so many, and I have so many duplicates, and I pulled 18 of my favorite books. Some are a little more worn than others. Some will have, you know, kids crayon and some writing and stuff in it, but there's still so much good stuff that you can pull from them. Some of them are pristine. They don't have any writing or anything in it. Maybe this one, oh, actually this one does, because it says June 1962, but no kids have colored in it. And there you go. You have an endless supply of inspiration and materials with a book. So each kit will get one of my favorite books. These are all children's books. They're all ones like this, so no golden books. I thought maybe we'll see how this goes, and if these kits go over well, I might do more kits in the future. I think this was so fun. I loved putting all this together. I felt like I was your guys' personal thrifter, shopper type thing, and I don't know, it was just kind of fun. But yeah, I kind of got some ideas. I might do a golden book kit sometimes. I would love to do a cookbook kit sometime. And so basically all you need is your creativity, some glue, some scissors, and you've got everything you need for a journal. You could even turn the book I give you into a journal. So yeah, so that's what I got going on. All right, guys, so let's talk about, I have 18 of these. They are going to be in my Etsy shop like right now. I'm going to go ahead and put them in my Etsy shop. I want to keep the cost down. I wanted this to be something that was very affordable, and I'll be honest, I wanted you, when you purchased this and when you opened it up at your house, I wanted you to be like, oh my gosh, I got so much for my money. So I wanted to cram as much stuff in there as I possibly could, still try to keep it around 2 pounds for shipping. And so normally I don't tell what my prices are, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys $20 is what I'm gonna put on these kits, because I want this to be something that you feel like is a good value and something that you would actually use and not be overwhelmed because there's just so much stuff, but that everything you get would be usable. So these are in my Etsy shop. I have 18 of them, and they are going to be $20 plus shipping and handling. And I'd love to see what you guys do with this stuff for those of you that purchase. And let me know if you'd be interested in me doing more kits in the future, because I have so much stuff and so much ideas that I would love to do. And yes, I am working on journals. Look for me to have some journals released in June. I've got to get caught up on everything that I neglected in May. And then, yes, I have a lot of journals that I have planned to do, and a lot of process videos that I have planned to do also. Guys, have a great rest of the day. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope you all are healthy and happy and do something creative today. Bye.